you so much for joining us for our first webinar of 2021. Today, we have a really great presentation about helping to make your website more accessible. We have Nachum. He is the co-founder and CMO of LocalBizGuru, a full-service digital marketing agency located here in Cleveland, Ohio. He has over 12 years of experience in the SEO industry and is a frequent presenter and instructor of SEO seminars for entrepreneurs and small business owners in the greater Cleveland area for organizations like Jumpstart, the Better Business Bureau, COSI, and the Ohio SBDC at CSU. So we welcome you today and thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to write those in the chat box, and we will be able to get to your questions at the end of the presentation. So I pass the torch to you, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much. Welcome and thank you for joining me here today. Like Pam said, my name is Nachum Langsner. I am the co-founder and chief marketing guru at LocalBizGuru. We are a full-service digital marketing agency based here in Cleveland. We help growth-oriented small and medium-sized businesses improve their online visibility. Like I always say, it's not enough to be online, you need to get found. And I have been involved in helping businesses get found since 2008. And in our company, we offer everything from web design and development to web hosting, local SEO, reputation management, social media marketing, and more. But today, I want to talk about and discuss website accessibility, how and why you should make your website more accessible. Now, we all recognize the importance of having a strong web presence, with our websites being our most important digital asset. What many do not realize, however, is that there are many people who have trouble accessing and enjoying our websites, causing many missed opportunities for both your business and your visitors. Now, your website isn't just an online business card anymore, okay? According to the government, a website can be considered a place of public accommodation, independent of any connection to a physical space. And that's according to the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And so they have ruled that the ADA Title III does indeed apply to provide access to websites and apps, as well as your brick and mortar locations. So in short, there's an ever-growing need to ensure your website is accessible to everyone. The American Disabilities Act of 1990 requires that our website operators ensure that their websites are equally accessible to any and all visitors. So what is web accessibility? It's basically a set of rules, behaviors, code standards, and design guidelines that were created by the W3C and are called WCAG 2.1. Now, this is a massive 1,000-page guidebook that encapsulates a range of disabilities that go from hindering internet use to making internet use impossible without certain adjustments. This spectrum comprises between 20 and 25% of the general population, depending on whose statistics you go by, the CDC or the WHO. There are many disabilities that are covered in this guideline, and the primary categories that require your attention are making your website accessible for blind people using screen readers, any motor impaired individuals using only keyboards to navigate, epileptic or people with color blindness, anyone with cognitive or learning disabilities, visual impairments, and much more. So the WCAG 2.1 at the AA level has actually been adopted as the global standard for web accessibility. That is the benchmark in legislation, used in legislation such as the ADA Title III, Section 508, et cetera, et cetera. So this is definitely the global standard, and this is the standard that you definitely want to be compliant with. Now, let's explore 4 reasons to achieve um, ADA compliance. Number 1, it reduces your litigation risks. Number 2, it improves your search engine rankings. Number 3, it potentially will increase your sales and conversions. And number 4, it improves your corporate responsibility. So let's explore each of these 4 benefits. First and foremost, let's talk about the legal side of the equation, because the ADA is in fact a law, and so compliance or non-compliance can have severe legal implications. I wish I can tell you that the exponential increase in demand for web accessibility has been a result of everybody coming to an understanding that both business owners and people with disabilities have so much to mutually gain from this endeavor. But that's not the case. Frankly, the reason for the increased demand, ADA compliance lawsuits are on an intense rise. Um, they're over 200% year over year, with reports of tens of thousands of demand letters and lawsuits targeting businesses of all sizes. Now, at first, only the largest of enterprises and government institutions were legally pressured to become accessible, and that makes sense. However, in 2018, one of the most significant shifts in the legal climate occurred when the Department of Justice officially affirmed that all websites are considered public accommodation, and therefore have to comply with Title III of the ADA. And many didn't think that it will ever happen to them, but that's not the case. In fact, in 2019, the number of cases tripled the number of lawsuits brought in 2018. That means for every business hour in 2019, a business was served for not being web accessible and ADA compliant. And in almost every situation, the plaintiff wins the case on its merits because it's a strict liability law, and judges are understandably sympathetic to people with disabilities who only want equal access and rights. There's virtually no chance of winning an ADA case if you're not compliant. Lawyers simply advise the clients to write the check, since there's no point in fighting it. A quick example, there was a visually impaired woman in Broward County, Florida, who sued over 175 business owners, several of which closed down as a result, and this was pre-COVID. Now, in the COVID-19 era, we're seeing those in quarantine have less access to actual physical locations and amenities, and they're finding it more and more difficult accessing the web for essential services. And so the number of cases are rising. So therefore, the very first benefit of becoming ADA compliant is that you avert any litigation risk. The next benefit that web accessibility and ADA compliance provides is search engine optimization. Basically, your website has a better chance of ranking when you incorporate web accessibility, because there's a lot of overlap in SEO best practices with ADA website compliance standards. So when you're following best standards and practice of SEO, many elements of your web accessibility are actually covered. Now, one of the most important things, let's talk about your bounce rate. Now, this is technical jargon, but a bounce rate is the rate of how many people go to your website and leave immediately if they don't find what they're looking for. Now, this is a metric and a very strong signal that Google uses to measure and determine rankability of a website. So the more accessible your website, the more likely that your bounce rate is going to lower, and the higher your website potential of ranking. So you have that consideration, and additionally, user experience has become one of the most important SEO considerations of late, and Google has been focusing a lot of their attention on the user experience. And so if your website is web accessible and ADA compliant, your user experience becomes exponentially greater, and that improves your ability to rank. And it's going to be a very, very starting in May, user experience signals are going to play a much greater role in your rankability. The third benefit of ADA compliance, the bottom line is web accessibility is good business. You know that 20% of individuals using the internet have some sort of disability. In 2018, the American Institute for Research released a study about working age adults with disabilities and determined the total disposable income for working age people with disabilities was $490 billion. And in 2019, disabled Americans spent over $200 billion online in discretionary spending alone. And in 2020, with COVID, that figure just increased exponentially. So why limit your exposure? Having an ADA compliant and web accessible website is only going to increase your possibility to increase your sales and conversions. So it's a no-brainer. And fourth, this is not something to just sneeze at. Improving your corporate social responsibility is a very strong consideration today. According to Nielsen Norman Group, which conducts research-based user experience studies, they found that users today expect companies to give back to the world in positive ways, to be socially responsible on social issues and inclusivity. So when it comes to web accessibility issues, showcasing your compliance will just boost your reputation, set you apart from your competition, and earn you the trust and loyalty of your users. And so your corporate social responsibility is another consideration for web accessibility. Now, let's discuss what are the available solutions on the market today. Okay, what makes the climate very difficult for business owners are the current web accessibility solutions are either just do not cover enough, or they're extremely expensive. For instance, you have free or low-cost plugins for many content management systems that provide you maybe 10 to 15% of the accessibility level that you need in order to become compliant. So they don't have that full compliance that you absolutely need to avoid litigation and to actually be a benefit to your users. Now, you also have manual accessibility services that do bring you up to full compliance, but they can cost between $20,000 and $40,000 per site, depending on the project. They take weeks and weeks or months to implement. And the worst part is there's the constant tedious and costly maintenance. Imagine you're spending all of the time and money coming to standard, and then every time you want to make a change or revision to your site, you have to spend either thousands of dollars to make that component compliant, or sacrifice a significant amount of accessibility that you worked so hard to attain. So those two options, as you can imagine, leaves 99% of the businesses out there without a feasible solution. making them easy targets for lawsuits and prevents them from actually providing a solution for people, with their potential clients with disabilities. So to solve this almost impossible situation, we have partnered with Accessibility, who created the most comprehensive and affordable AI accessibility tool on the market today. Our accessibility tool is AR-powered machine learning software that was developed with the understanding that successfully automating the process will create a simple, immediate, affordable, compliant solution that is a win-win for both the business owners and anyone with disabilities who just want equal access to the internet. And when you take in consideration our pricing model, which is a fraction of the cost of manual remediation, and the level of compatibility, it's a no-brainer. It actually makes being accessible and compliant in general for the majority of businesses a no-brainer that otherwise wouldn't have been a reasonable solution. Now, our solution was developed side by side with leading experts in accessibility and assistive technologies in order to ensure the highest success rate in the industry with respect to going above and beyond the standards for compliance. And this is evident in the fact that none of our clients have ever received a compliant lawsuit after implementing our AI solution. And another important thing to note, one of the legal requirements of being ADA compliant is to have an accessibility statement that highlights your website's accessibility. This document basically will explain all of the adjustment solutions that has been made to your website, to your browser, and assistive technology compatibility, and describes how to report the feedback. If you go with our solution, this statement is personalized to the name of your domain, and it is dated and is available within 48 hours of installation once the AI completes its process. Not only that, you get monthly compliance audits, and so therefore you're going to have an ongoing compliance statements and a track record, so that if you ever are faced with any legal issues, you have the proof to present and win your case. Now, the best part of becoming compliant with our solution is the super simplicity of the process. Basically, it requires an installation of a single line of code. It takes 5 minutes to install, and it integrates with any website or CMS platform. Your website then instantly displays our accessibility interface that I'm going to show you soon. And then simultaneously, the AI kicks in, and within 48 hours is finished, and the website is accessible and compliant and continues to be compliant thereafter. And that's the biggest advantage. Automatic maintenance, the AI rescans the website every 24 hours and remediating any and all issues that may crop up. And so therefore, you do not have to ever worry about adding content or changing elements to your website and messing up your AI compliance. Ultimately, after the 5-minute installation, it's set and forget, and you're good to go. So let's dive into the features. So there are two sides to the technology, okay? And we achieve this compliance using two components. The first is our accessibility interface that is responsible for handling the UI, design, and cognitive related adjustments. It is, excuse me, it is structured by disability profiles and enhancement features. So that way, anybody, any user with different disabilities can simply select the profile that best suits their needs. And they're also able to customize it to their specifications. Among these profiles, you'll find an epilepsy safe profile, visual impaired profile, cognitive disability profile, ADHD friendly profile, and it's fully customizable and fits to your website's design and color and branding. And again, is customizable both as the website owner, but also more importantly, the user interface can adjust specifically to what they need. Now, the second part is our AI, machine learning powered process that handles all of the keyboard navigation adjustments for the motor impaired and blind people's screen readers. Now, if you're not familiar, a screen reader is basically software used by the blind to operate their computers, access websites, and it's installed on the operating system and basically reads out the content that is focused on the screen. And it also helps with navigation and orientation of the website. So adjustments to those screen readers are what this legislation basically requires. And our technology handles all on-site aspects using contextual understanding AI technology that is responsible for remediating menus, drop-downs, pop-ups, any icons, forms, buttons, any and all elements that is present in your website, and it achieves compliance by applying the appropriate screen reader text and website behaviors. It also provides automatic alt text to images. And now this is another technical thing, but the alt text basically Google and other search engines at this time are not able to interpret photos well. And basically you as the programmer have to, and the website owner, have to basically identify and tell the search engines what each image and element of your website is doing. And so this AI using Iris and OCR technologies actually scans and learns all about the objects that are featured in the images, as well as the text that's embedded within any of the images. And this is, by the way, all supported fully in 14 different languages. Now I want to show you how this technology works in actuality.
On this video, we're going to be covering a live features demonstration of our solution. That's going to break down into two components. The first is the accessibility interface, or the foreground application. And the second is the background application, which is the AI responsible for keyboard navigation and screen reader adjustments for the motor impaired and fully blind. Now I'm going to open the interface. And one thing I'd like to start off with is saying that the beauty of this accessibility interface is that you do not have to compromise the brand, look, or design of the website in favor of accessibility, because this interface allows users to make adjustments only when needed according to their specific disability. Now, the first part of the interface breaks down into profiles, which optimize for a specific category of a disability. For example, the seizure safe profile. Now, this profile allows for users with epilepsy to stop any moving animations, as well as reducing the color in order to allow for a safe browsing experience. Now, for example, do you see the flickering GIF, the video moving on the bottom right-hand side, as well as the moving animation? When I turn on the seizure safe profile, it stops all the moving content, again allowing for a safe browsing experience while also reducing the colors. The next profile is the visually impaired profile. which enhances the website's visual in order to allow people with specific minor visual impairments to optimize and enhance so that they will be able to see and operate the website in a more user-friendly way. When I turn on the profile, you'll see that the scaling has been increased by 100%. The saturation and contrast has been increased, as well as the fonts that have been changed to the system user's default font, which will be clearly readable to them. Now, this helps for degrading eyesight, tunnel vision, cataracts, glaucoma, and many others. The last two profiles I'll show you here are the cognitive disability profiles and the ADHD-friendly profile. Starting with the cognitive disability profile, which highlights all of the links, menu items, and titles, allowing for more focus and assists with reading experience. If you take a look, all of the animations have stopped as well, again allowing for a more focused experience. You have the ADHD profile, which gives you a reading mask allowing for fewer distraction by again stopping all of the animations and moving content, increasing the saturation, allowing for a more focused browsing experience with fewer distractions. The last two profiles, as you see here, are for blind users and keyboard navigation for the motor impaired, which are not really going to be used on the interface. They're really more there for showing purposes. Of course, all of these profiles can be enhanced manually and customly by an interface that allows you to increase scaling, make the font more readable, highlight titles, links, increase font size, alignment, letter spacing, and for impairments such as cataracts, glaucoma, or color blindness, you have the option to change to a dark contrast, a monochrome scheme, and depending on the severity of the situation, change specific text, title, and background colors in order to optimize for your specific browsing experience. The last thing I'm going to show you on this interface, which has over 75 other features, is the Cognitive and Learning Glossary, which allows users to look up and understand certain terms and phrases like binge watching. Great. Now that we covered this, let's get into the backend application, which, as mentioned before, mostly relates to keyboard navigation and screen reader adjustments for the motor impaired and the fully blind. The way that we activate this new layer of accessibility, which we like to call accessible mode, is by specific functions. For example, a motor impaired user that uses the keyboard to navigate, more specifically the tab key, which is the universal key for keyboard navigation, will be able to tab through the site and automatically turn on accessible mode, which makes the necessary adjustments. A blind user will get an announcement directly to their screen reader, whether it be JAWS, NVDA, or any other screen reader, and the announcement will be to press Alt-1 in order to activate screen reader and keyboard navigation adjustments. Now, I just press Alt-1, which allows me to get into accessible mode. And when I first start to navigate, I see an accessible navigation menu, which allows me to browse between all of the clickable content on the site, or simply press tab to skip through. Now you see all of the icons, search bars, menus, access to drop-down menus as well. When triggering open pop-ups, the keyboard focus lifts and lands on the pop-up, allowing for you to continue navigating, or press escape to continue from where you left off. You also have the ability to navigate through sliders. And as you see, all of the menus, forms, icons, and all of the more complex parts of web accessibility are things that our solution excels in remediating. The last part I want to show you here is the image recognition technology, which I think is very, very exciting. And in order to do that, I'll go ahead and reset the settings one more time. For this, I'm going to have to inspect the console and show you a couple of elements before accessible mode is turned on, and of course, once it is already on. If you take a look at the console, and I just inspected the GIF over here that says traveling, shopping 15% off, you see that there's no label, there's no description for the image, and the text that's embedded within the image has not been converted into screen reader text for this image as well. Or perhaps the Facebook icon, or the favorites button. I'll show you one more image for good measure. And now I'd like you to see what happens when I activate accessibility mode, again, as mentioned by pressing Alt-1. I hope you're able to see the code changing live, and let's reinspect the element one more time. As you see, the alt using image recognition technology has been provided, in this case, women in shorts standing on gray concrete floor near body of water during daytime. Or for the GIF, where you have the image recognition technology that is describing wood, retro, and luggage, as well as the optical character recognition deriving the text embedded within the image to say travel, shopping, 50% off, just like it is on the image. As you see here, again, a fully labeled description and deriving the text embedded within the image. I want to show you some of the icons and other items, like the Facebook icon, which is assigned a new window and Facebook attributes, as you see here. Or this heart, where using contextual understanding AI and how our technology compares elements on your site to hundreds of millions of data sets and tens of thousands of websites, knows that this is not just a heart. It is, in fact, a favorites. Great. Now, that about sums it up. And of course, to learn more, you can always contact your respective rep in the company, your point of contact, to ask any other questions about our solution, whether it is from a features point of view, a legality point of view, or just a general market perspective as it pertains to web accessibility. I really appreciate you joining us today. Take care now. On this video,
and so I thank you for joining and watching with us. I encourage everybody to go to our website and get your free accessibility audit for your website. The URL is localbizguru.com/web accessibility checker. I look forward to hearing about what you think, and we are here to help you with anything that you may feel you need to achieve your accessibility moving forward. And so I want to thank you for watching. If there's any other questions that you don't think of now but think of later, I can be reached at Nachum at localbizguru.com. Let me check. Or reach out to Pam, and she has my contact information. I'm more than happy to discuss any and all of the questions you may have about anything that was discussed today. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us about accessibility. I think a lot of things, I mean, websites change every day, so I think it's important to keep up with what's happening. So
Absolutely.
thank you for all the businesses that joined us today. we will be sending out this recording as well. And if you have any other questions, always feel free to reach out to us. And we thank you for coming and hope we see you on another webinar.